perfectly well is not working well. One of the very, you want to go to the basis in wellness, I'm looking at that. If a person is not sufficiently hydrated, all kinds of things work poorly.
Nothing works well.
Nothing works well. And it's the damnedest thing, it's just water. And if you go even more fundamental than that, if they have a low, in Oriental medicine, the most common the most common diagnosis is kidney Qi deficiency. If a person is Qi deficient, in Oriental medicine, kidney doesn't mean kidney. The French tried to make things simple when they encountered the early Jesuits. They didn't understand great yang and this and that. They said, listen, what's the main organ in this particular phase of regulation? Well, kidney. Okay, we'll call this kidney. But if you break it down, kidney in Oriental medicine means central nervous system, brain, bone marrow. That's kidney. It isn't just, kidney, adrenal, wow, now we understand adrenal fatigue in Chinese medicine. No. Kidney Qi deficiency is central nervous system energy deficiency. And that's why it's the most common Oriental medical diagnosis, because it's the most common condition where the core organizing element of the body, and also the blood supply, the bone marrow, and the immune factors are all ATP deficient. So that's why the brain food is, like I say oftentimes, the garden. Vegetables, fruit trees, flowers, herbs, water and sunshine, they all thrive, assuming the soil is good, right? But the herbs are so different from the fruit trees. But there are levels of need that are so fundamental that nature uses it everywhere. And in organisms, mammals especially, but other, it's that we use mitochondrial generated ATP to fuel cellular function. We also use radiant thermal energy. About 1/3 of metabolic energy is supplied from nutrition, which is shocking. About 2/3 is supplied from thermal sources, which is primarily the sun. I can give you the most exquisite diet in the world, put you in a box with no light and no heat. It's called freezing to death. You're dead very quickly. So we absorb what's generally called thermal energy, but that's mainly sunshine. Of course, there's geothermal energy, but it's almost inconsequential for us humans. We don't live in the earth, right? So the thermal, that light, is exciting and fueling the mitochondrial production of ATP, because that's what nutrition is. We start with light, then there's a whole photosynthetic process. You get plants, you get animals, you eat the plants, you eat the animals. They go in, we break them into molecules, break the molecules down to the atomic level, split the atom, boom, you've got electrons and photons and protons. And that's what we get when the phosphate bond breaks. That's the activation. It's basically stored sunlight. It's basically stored sunlight. So the body, the brain, certainly the body, but the brain's favorite food is light. Now, whether you get it in a plant or an animal package or not, if you take away the sun, called like one of like the nuclear winter, right? If you don't get sunshine on Earth, everything dies. And even, you can say, well, the plants are going to die because of photosynthesis. They convert their energy from sun. But because indirectly we eat the plants, or we eat the animals that eat the plants. What are we eating? We're eating sun. We're eating light. So that's why, if you look at it deeply, 2/3 of the energy requirements are from thermal sources. And you can prove that any time by giving them the most exquisite diet in the world, by whatever definition they have for what that is. But you take away light and heat, they won't last 24 hours.
I think I read that the brain tissue itself requires 30% of the body's overall energy demand.
There are different ways of measuring it. Probably that's it. The one that's used oftentimes is 10 times more energy than any other organ. Yeah. So cumulatively that might be true. The point is that the brain is famished for energy. And all you have to do is look at the blood supply, the vascular network for the brain. Now, I oftentimes look at these models, and I think there's no room for the nerve cells. The blood supply is so dense. Why is the blood supply so dense? Because the blood delivers. Oh, you mean, the flashlight thing. I'll stop quickly. Take a stupid old flashlight with a tungsten bulb, nothing exotic, go in a dark room or at night, put it in the palm of your hand, and you see the light coming through the other side of your hand. Not blue and green and purple, not the short wavelengths, but the longer, red, orange, maybe a little bit of yellow. That's about 2 inches. That means that the long wavelengths of light will penetrate even dense hand with bone and ligaments about 2 inches. And there are all these charts now. You can see the visible red and the near infrared penetrating 2, even 3 inches into the tissue if it's skin exposed. That's right straight through into all the capillary network. It's a massive replication of our technological refining of the nasal light. That long wavelength light, hence, from the people yoga, the Surya Namaskaram, the salutation to the sun. You do that at the first 10 degrees because it's mostly all the near infrared and the red. So when you're doing this asana sequence, you're actually eating light. That's why it's the salutation to the sun. That's why you do it facing the sun. Because you're actually eating sunlight as you move it through your nadis into the network. So we eat light. So if you've got to increase capacity, that's why the nasal light is part of the design. And now there's transcranial light. If you Google transcranial something, it'll come up transcranial magnetic. That's not that. But the transcranial magnetic is a little bit different because it stimulates excitation, but it isn't a supply. The transcranial light is big, huge difference. The transcranial light is in the near infrared range. At proper dosage, it'll penetrate through the skull and into about 1 to 2 millimeters of the neocortex, which is all that you need. And the results are preposterously positive. Head traumas, depression, all kinds of, major depressive disorder, MDD, is being treated very successfully with 10 to 20 minutes exposure, one time, giving benefit for 2 to 4 weeks in major depressive disorder.
Can I just ask if you have to use a specific location for a specific issue? Because I have lasers. I've been doing a lot of transcranial laser work on myself with different frequencies on the lasers. I find it's really been helpful. But I haven't studied neurology in the specifics.
I'm going to avoid that for 2 reasons. One is I promised lunch at 1, it's over that. The other is that it's only indirectly related to the neurolite. And I want to make sure we're focusing on that. There's a lot of methodologies. The near-infrared wavelength and the visible red wavelength are the most common, the most beneficial, directly and indirectly applied.
That's what I read, so I have both. But then the other quick
Okay,
question...
let's turn this off and I can keep on talking to reading about
Let me just talk about some logistics about food and timing for everybody.
Okay, let's turn this off first.